is September 13th, I believe, and you are in Put-in-Bay, Ohio, northern Ohio, right on Lake Erie. Now, where we're at is Perry's Victory and International Peace Memorial. And if you can see the big building behind me, it was constructed between 1912 and 1915. It took the government 32 months to construct the memorial for Oliver Hazard Perry and in honor of Perry and his fleet, the men who died here during the Battle of Lake Erie, which took place about 7 miles away behind you. The battle was part of the War of 1812, in which the United States was engaged in fighting the British, the United Kingdom, basically over trade restrictions imposed upon them by the British. Tried to handle their problems diplomatically, sending envoys and ambassadors, but the push comes to shove, nothing happens, and the United States grows frustrated with the British and declares war in June of 1812, which happened to be just a week before Napoleon's invasion of Russia. I think the United States was trying to take advantage of Britain's problems, fighting a war on two fronts, and well, eventually you'd think it'd go good for the United States, knowing what the military is like today. But in 1812, it was not the U.S. military of 2018, and the Army doesn't do so well. And what happens is that one force north of us in Detroit gets captured, a second force way off to the east on the Niagara River. They do pretty good, and then they lose their battle. And the third force that is going up and invading Canada along the Richelieu River. It should be said you never want to invade Canada in November. And they did that, and they end up pulling back too. So for the first year of the war, the United States has the advantage. 3 separate armies go up, and only 2 come back. All right, how does that affect us here on Lake Erie? Well, in order to move anything, then your waterways, your big lakes, your rivers, think of them as the modern day interstates. And this is where all traffic, all commerce, all transport moves best, on the water. Roads, especially in Ohio, and Ohio is the Wild West of 1812, it's slow and it costs a buku amount of money. So if you control the water, you control transport, and you control the war. Well, now the United States doesn't have any ships up here. They didn't think the war would last that long, and they didn't take the precaution of building any ships or having them up here to protect the United States line of supply. And so what happens is they got to build their own fleet. They got to get the lake back from the British, because the British have ships all over the place up here. So the United States has to build a fleet, and they do that in Erie, Pennsylvania. They steal a few ships, they buy some commerce ships, they fit them out with cannon, and then they move them from Erie, Pennsylvania to Put-in-Bay, which is just off, would be to your right, behind us here, just a few hundred yards. And all under the command of Oliver Hazard Perry. He's 27 years old, and he is from Newport, Rhode Island. Perry, up to this time, was begging for any type of command, because all of his buddies are fighting the British, and they're doing pretty good. But Perry doesn't have a command. So he begs for it, and eventually, because nobody else wanted to come out here, they give it to him. So Perry gets the fleets built, and he moves them here, and by late August, he can see that the British, way off to the north of us, on the north side of the lake, about 20 miles away, they can't move any transports back and forth to supply their own troops, because Perry's watching everybody. Eventually what happens is the British start to run out of food, and they are forced to have to seek a battle with Perry in order to break that deadlock. So the British come from the north of us, behind you, come down. Perry sees them on the morning of Friday morning, September 10th, 1813, and engages them in a battle that lasts about 3 hours. Perry is victorious. He captures the entire fleet. This is unprecedented. It's his first fleet action for the United States, but the British fleet, the British had never suffered all of their ships being captured in combat at one time. So, in essence, Perry does is he makes U.S. history by, I think the first fleet action is not on the Atlantic, it's right here on the lake, and it's the first time the British fleet ever gets captured in combat. That pretty much ends the War of 1812 in the Northwest. 100 years afterwards now, they'll begin the construction of this column. This whole place behind us and around us was a swamp. That was it, and that's part of the reason they built it here, because a swamp, very shallow water, is closest to bedrock. And this column weighs 40,000 tons. Because there's a lot of rock, granite, pink granite from Milford, Massachusetts. And what they did with this, it's a Doric column, which means it's kind of goes up, just slight angles inside, about 6 inches. You really can't make it out. But it's of a Greek Doric design, the tallest of its type in the world. And so then in order to make this thing constructed properly, they had to number each piece. So it's like it's not like Legos or anything, it's like, well, it's more like Jenga, I guess. And so you had to build it up properly. It took them 32 months, 25 men, 32 months to construct the entire column. And the plaza we're standing on, and the one you can see behind me, were added afterwards. So initially, this road was here also. It wasn't paved, it was a dirt road. It was about the only one out. It extends around the island of East Point. My name is Jeff Helmer, H-E-L-M-E-R. I am originally from Duluth, Minnesota. So if the accent's getting anybody, sorry about that, but that's where I'm from. Part of the National Park Service. Once again, we'll see ya. Bye-bye.